Okay, I thought it'd be a good idea to give you guys a recruiting update on kind of what's going on, especially right now with the 25 class, with all these changes. We've talked about it a bunch, but we're still seeing a lot of kids decommit. Remember back in the end of July, we talked about how there was going to be mass decommits across the 25 class, especially amongst the Division I level. And you've seen almost on average a program decommitting 5-6 kids off of their recruiting commitments. And so what you've seen from that, guys, is you are seeing, one, the mid-majors are picking up some of those guys, right? They've cleared out, they've had to cut some guys, and then if they have an open spot, they're looking for an impact player and stuff like that. So what you're seeing is those mid-major schools are looking for, okay, we're going to cut some guys. And again, you got to think, I mean, it's all about competition. The Power Four, they cut guys because they just don't have enough roster spots. They're probably not going to be picking up any, but the mid-majors have to cut guys because they have too many guys committed. And then they start thinking, okay, well, maybe we can cut 1 or 2 guys more and pick up some of these decommits from the Power Four that we were really high on in the recruiting process and snag a few of them. So you're seeing the mid-majors go after those impact players. Now, the lower level D1s are going to have a similar strategy, but a lot of the lower level D1s, again, not all of them, but some of them really weren't full yet with their recruiting class. So they were still looking to add guys, or that, maybe a few guys or whatever. Some even telling us as recently as a couple weeks ago, we're still pretty wide open in 25. They're looking to add some of those guys as well. So what you're seeing is that kind of trickle-down effect from the Power Four, because these schools in particular probably saw a lot of these kids in the summer, thought they were really good players, maybe even said, we probably don't have a shot at them, and then all of a sudden these changes come, and now they have a chance to get these guys. The caveat is this. What these schools are starting to realize is these impact players that we get, if they turn into a stud as a freshman, they're probably gone in the portal. They're probably, okay, I proved myself, I'm going in the portal, I'm going to go get back to a Power 4 school. That's the new, this right here is you're going to see the biggest changes in how they recruit over the next, as long as these changes remain in place, because now that the Power Fours can't recruit as many high school guys, and anyone in Division I can. They're going to get a certain amount of portal guys. They only got 34 spots now, so they're going to get a smaller amount of high school guys than they already were from when the portal came out. And so these guys have to make decisions based on, okay, do we go after, how many high-profile guys do we go after that would have been Power 4 typically? And we get them, but we may only get them for a year, or we may only get them for 2 years. The reality is they're probably going to do a little bit of both. They're going to get some of those impact guys that you think are going to be a one-and-done type player that ends up going in the portal. But the reality is also this. Players kind of show up all of a sudden and turn into studs. There's some guys you recruit and you think, he could be a good player, and then all of a sudden he's a star because he's a gamer, lights come on, all of a sudden he plays way better than you think he's going to. So the reality is these schools in general are going to be dealing with that no matter if the kid's a stud coming out of high school, or maybe they just think he's a good player, but he ends up being a stud when he gets on campus. So these guys are going to be, they're going to have to make those decisions year by year, how many guys they want to take on that they think are going to be maybe one-and-done type players. Because they're already going to lose most of the portal guys every year. And so now you're going to lose even more of your high school guys that come in. So that's kind of how that's going to change. Now the JUCOs, and talking to some of them even this week, they're saving money for some of these guys. Because a lot of players know, well, if I, and this is the other thing, if you're a high school player out there and you got decommitted from a Power 4, the reality is there's not a lot of spots. It's not like there's more spots available at other Power 4 schools. I mean, they're all doing the same thing. They're all cutting a bunch of guys because they got to get down to that 34-man roster, especially with the ambiguity of when that roster needs to be set in the fall. So schools are just like, hey, we got to cut 8 guys. We got to cut 8 guys because we're not going to be able to be at 34 after next season. JUCOs are saving money now to pick up some of those guys because a lot of players know you go to a top JUCO You go to a top JUCO, it's the same thing now. You can get a lot of playing time in the fall, in the spring, a lot of at-bats or a lot of innings as a pitcher, build that track record up as much as possible, and then jump to a bigger school again. So all these schools, the reality is this. The mid-majors and the low D1 are going to be a lot more like JUCOs now. A lot more like JUCOs. They're going to be able to get a lot more premier talent, but the question is going to be how long can you hold on to those guys? How long can you hold on to those guys? And so, I mean, we've heard from a bunch of different coaches. No coach likes this new system. No coach likes it, but you have to compete under the rules of the system. And so what you're going to see is a lot of mid-major schools, low D1s, JUCOs, going after these premier talent kids that may be just off the edge of a Power 4 recruiter, may just be a little bit too many question marks, and they can go to this school and build a track record. If you're a high school player now, the biggest thing you're competing with is the track record of the college player. Because, one, the 20, 21-year-old is probably a little bit more physical than you, but that's not a huge factor. The biggest factor is they have a track record of performance against college pitching, and you don't. The reality is that so many kids that recruiters think are going to be good players, they get to campus, game speeds up on them, all of a sudden they're not nearly as good as what a coach thought they were going to be. And so now that problem has been solved by the transfer portal, because if you go get a kid from a good D2 school and he's hitting 330 with 15 bombs, those numbers are translating. Maybe he hits 320 with 14, 13. Still, that's going to be an impact player in your lineup. And so the track record, if you're a high school player, that track record is so valuable. A lot of you guys may want to start considering going to maybe you think you're a Power 4 player, that may not be the best place for you to go. Because at the Power 4 now, you're competing with those 20, 21-year-old kids out of the portal that have maybe 500 at-bats under their belt in college baseball, and you got none. And so all of a sudden, that guy's going to have a lot more leeway because, well, he's got 500 bats, he's put up these kind of numbers where they don't have a track record for you. They liked you as a player in high school, but they really have no idea how you're going to perform when the lights turn on and the games start. So as a high school kid, guys, I highly recommend make sure you are valuing the schools that are going to give you a shot as a freshman, a school where you're going to get a chance to develop. Again, JUCO is great for that. You play so many games, you get a fall schedule, spring schedule. But now, all of these schools are going to be a lot more like JUCO, whether we like it or not, because players now have free reign of when they can transfer and when they want to, if they can stay or if they want to transfer. So, guys, high school guys, make sure whether it's any of these schools you're considering now, if you're a guy out there that's been decommitted, don't hesitate to treat schools like this. Even the really good D2s, I haven't written down, but some of the best D2s in the country, you're talking University of Tampa, North Greenville, et cetera, Young Harris, and North Atlanta. I mean, these schools they can compete with really good Division I schools, and they're better than a lot of Division I schools out there. So I want to kind of get rid of that stigma that like any Division I school could beat any D2 school. That's not true. Same with JUCO, et cetera. The best schools at every level are going to be able to compete at a certain point with the best schools in any conference. Now you talking like best schools in the Power 4, like the SEC and your Clemson's, ACC, et cetera. They may have they'll have an edge in depth and probably a little bit more elite talent. But again, that series, it would be competitive. And so make sure you're focused on getting to a place where you can play right away. Again, coaches aren't going to love it if you want to go to a school and transfer after 1 year, but that's the reality of the recruiting process now. And the coaches that take advantage of that are going to be the most successful. But wanted to leave that for you guys, especially if you're one of those kids that got decommitted. If you're looking for help, go to our website, elitesportsadvising.com, fill out an eval request. We'll meet with you, tell you what we think your options may be, connect you with schools, and see if we can get the process sped up for you. Let me know in the comments what you think, guys, and thanks for all the support. And we'll be back with another video soon.